Good morning and welcome to the Rapid City Planning Commission meeting for December 8th, 2022. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda today, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Now, I've been informed that we may be out of speaker.
Nope, we got more.
Oh, we got more. All right.
Thanks to Andrea.
In any event, if you don't have a chance to fill out a speaker request form when we're dealing with the item and I'm calling speaker requests, please just wave, make it known. We'll recognize you, make sure that everybody has a chance to speak to the item. But if you do get a request form, please fill it out with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated on the left of the dais. At this time, we'd also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. Items 1 through 5 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following items. Item 2, 22 PD 053, and item 3, 22 UR 026. The Rapid City Planning Commission's action on these two items is final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 5 that staff would like removed?
No, thank you.
And are there any items 1 through 5 that any planning commissioner would like removed for separate consideration? Any items 1 through 5 that any audience member would like removed for separate consideration at this time? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 5 in accordance with staff's recommendation.
Motion to approve items 1 through 5.
All right, Vince made the motion to approve. And Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 6 was on your agenda at last meeting also. This is a major amendment to a plan development to allow on-sale liquor in conjunction with video lottery. We are still waiting for some information from the applicant to ensure that the separation between the sale of alcohol and the sale of gas meets the legal requirements. And so with that, we are recommending that this item be continued to your January 5th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
All right. Okay, Karen made the motion to continue to January 5th, 2023, and Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to continue? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7.
Good morning. Sarah Hansel with the Planning Projects Division. Item number 7 is an initial plan development overlay to allow an apartment complex located south of Omaha Street and west of Campbell Street. The property consists of 3 lots, which you can see on the aerial view in front of you. This is an approximately 7.92 acre parcels of land. The property is zoned office commercial district with a planned development overlay. You may recall that this property was rezoned relatively recently with the planned development overlay so that the Planning Commission could review the future proposed development on the property. The future land use categories for this property include mixed use commercial and light industrial, and it is located along a revitalization corridor, which you can see along East Omaha Street. Here's the major street plan showing East Omaha Street as a principal arterial. This is the site plan. With this being an initial plan development overlay, keep in mind that there may be some changes, but this is the direction that the property is going. The development will consist of 2 separate structures, one building including 51 units and the second building including 129 units. With this initial plan development overlay, the applicant is requesting an exception to the height requirement. In lieu of the 3-story, 35 feet height limit, they're requesting an exception for a 4-story and up to 45 feet height structures. The zoning code would require for 180 units that they're providing, they would need to provide 270 parking spaces, and they're showing excess of that at 297, including 10 accessible spaces. I'm gonna go to the, this part of the site plan shows the open space that they're requiring. At 400 square feet per unit, they would be required to provide 72,000 square feet of open space, and they're showing 77,500 square feet, including a basketball court and a playground. Go through the elevation sketches here. You can see a visual rendering of what that 4-story structure would look like, and this is indicative of what the window patterns and some of the exterior building materials would include. We'll just look through some of the front elevation here. This would be perspective drawings. And also importantly, with this application, they've submitted a photo simulation showing what the buildings would look like. This is a view from Omaha Street looking south. This site does have unique topographic considerations. We'll see that as we look through the site photos. The site, it sits about 30 feet lower below Omaha Street, and so as staff looks at this and reviews their height exception, we do see justification for that height exception because the property sits substantially lower from Omaha. And here you can kind of get a sense in scale of what that development would look like on that site. To look at it from the other side of the property, this would be along Center Street, looking north, and there you can see Building A and Building B and what that visual effect would have on this corridor. Mentioned the topography of the site earlier. Here you can kind of see the contours and showing how that site topography changes. Here's some site photos. So this would be looking east along Omaha Street. You can see that topography change. This is looking southwest into the site where approximately where the structures would be located. This is looking to the west along Omaha Street. You can see that the required signage was posted. And this is looking north to adjacent development on the other side of Omaha Street, and looking to the east towards that other development in this area. As staff reviewed both the rezone request for this project and the current initial plan development, we certainly took into consideration the desperate need for housing in Rapid City, but also keeping in mind that this is a commercial corridor and that the specific design of this property would really be instrumental in making sure that it was a safe and quality place to live. So through the initial plan development, we're able to look at the design of the building, how it's situated on the lot, how buffering is provided between Omaha Street and the development. There's also some buffering at the rear of the lot with the rail-banked right-of-way that's situated behind there. So we are recommending that this item be approved with the stipulations noted in the staff report, and we'll stand for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Sarah. Eric Ottenbacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we review the floodplain? I know we talked about that last time. How far it kind of sits into the floodplain, because I know that that's fairly low in elevation.
Mr. Chair, we wanted to provide this graphic in case that question came out. This property is not located within the 100-year floodplain, so there are no development restrictions for that. There are portions of the site which are located in the 500-year floodplain, and you can see those designations on the graphic. The yellowish orange color is the 500-year, the blue color is the 100-year, and as you'll notice, the property boundary does not include any 100-year floodplain.
Uh, I had a question, Sarah. You mentioned it right at the end. You said rail banked right away behind there. My recollection is that railway is no longer in use, and is who owns it? Has the state taken that over, or is it the railroad? Kip, I see you waving your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was owned by the state, but the state recently sold off that rail banked right-of-way to a company called Watco. And Watco is planning on reestablishing some rail service to the east of Rapid City. However, they have no plans to re-engage that railway within the town of Rapid City.
Okay. All right, good to know. Thank you, Kip. Any other questions or comments from the commission on this item? Motions? If not? All right. Mike Gallagher made the motion to approve item number 7 per the stipulations from staff as listed. Yes. Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item number 8. I have quite a number of speaker requests on item number 8, so I'm going to institute a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, just to make sure everybody has a chance to get heard and we don't get too long in doing so. With that, item number 8.
So this item is a final plan development overlay to allow a mental health clinic at 804 West Boulevard. This site was previously used as a dental office and most recently a family law office. The property is zoned high-density residential district. Future land use is urban neighborhood. The property is accessed by West Boulevard, which is classified as a collector street on the city's major street plan. No interior or exterior alterations are being proposed. The clinic will only see patients with scheduled appointments, and there'll be a maximum of 5 employees and 4 patients on the property at any one time. This is a site plan of the property that the applicant is requesting exceptions to allow 4 on-site parking spaces in lieu of 5, to allow a 13.2-foot wide drive aisle in lieu of 26 feet, and to allow vehicles to back into the right-of-way. The 4 on-site parking spaces will be reserved for the patients, and the applicant is currently working with the city's parking division to secure parking permits in the adjacent right-of-way for employees. On-site photos, public notice was posted on the property. This is looking north along West Boulevard. This is looking south along that same street. This is looking east along Quincy and the west view as well. And staff is recommending that this item be approved, subject to the stipulations outlined in the report. I would be happy to take any questions the commission may have, and the applicant and property owner are also in the audience today.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
Yes, if I just might add, Tanner, could you go back to the site plan that shows the parking? So in a previous conditional use permit that was acted on by Planning Commission many years ago, there were 4 parking spaces that were allowed for previous uses. And with that, exceptions were granted to allow backing into the right-of-way, and that the access aisle width did not meet that requirement. So as we've done with other properties that have been developed and approved, we'll bring that forward. But in this case, we looked at visibility. If you're a driver of one of those cars, how can you best see that when you're backing up that you don't encroach onto another vehicle? And so they did slightly alter the layout so that you do have better visibility. Instead of parallel parking along that south lot line, they're angled. And so they did need to request those exceptions again. So in line with what we have done in the past, since the site operated successfully with that layout, this is an improvement. So a part of your approval would grant the exception to allow backing into the right-of-way and to reduce the access aisle width from 26 feet to about half of that. Based on the parking regulations, the square footage of the building, they're required to have 5 parking spaces. But in working with the applicant, her operational plan says that they need 9, that there would be 5 employees and 4 patients maximum on the property at any one time. So we've worked with them to ensure that they are securing 9 spaces. And to do that, they've reached out to our parking enforcement division. There is permit parking that you can purchase from the city along Quincy Street, and they are working on securing those permits so that they do have secured 9 parking spaces for this use in an effort to avoid putting any parking onto the residential streets in the area. It's also important to note that as a part of the approval of this, it is stipulated that the proposed operational plan as presented to you today that Tanner just went through is what you are approving. If there's a change of use or an expansion of use, it's a major amendment, and it will require that that application be brought before you for additional consideration.
Thank you, Vicki. Before we get to public comment, are there any initial questions the commission has for staff at this point? Karen?
My only question is about the 5 parking spaces at the city. You said that they were working on getting those. If they do not get those, does that, if we would approve it, does that mean that we have to change this or that would come back to us?
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
That is correct. Before they can occupy the building, they need to verify that they've got those secured. So they've got time to get those permits in place with our parking enforcement division between now and then. If for any reason this would get delayed or not approved, that would be difficult for them to have secured those permits beforehand.
Brooke? Sorry, excuse me. Brooke?
Mr. Chairman, a question for staff. So, Vicki, when you say change or expansion, does that mean if they add the number of employees, if they start to see more people than 4 at a time, and that can either come from the business owner or if somebody says, hey, we're seeing this, like, am I understanding what expansion means?
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
That is exactly right. And previous uses of this building have been approved in similar fashion. And over the years, we did receive complaints from code enforcement that someone wasn't operating in compliance. And we do have the ability then to pursue that legally and bring it back into compliance or assist them with bringing forward a major amendment for your consideration.
All right, I'm going to go to the public comment. I'll call everybody's name and just, I'm not an expert at the timing system. I hope Karen is, but we'll start to signal as you get close to your time limit, all right? David Holland, and when you're up at the mic, please identify yourself and your interest in the application.
Good morning, members of the Commission. My name is David Holland, and I'm here representing the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association on the issue of the requested change to the conditional use of the property at 804 West Boulevard. Our neighborhood association would like to urge the Commission to deny the request. West Boulevard Neighborhood Association is the oldest neighborhood association in South Dakota. Having been founded in 1976, we're an active group and have done a lot over the years to foster a sense of community within our neighborhood. The Neighborhood Association was founded on 3 principles: to protect our neighborhood from commercial encroachment, to preserve and promote its integrity as a residential neighborhood, and to maintain the designated historic district. We believe that the application to change the conditional use at 804 West Boulevard from a current 1 employee maximum to a 5 employee and 4 patient operation threatens all 3 of our founding principles. It would allow for a significant change in the use of the property that is not consistent with the character of the residential neighborhood, and especially not consistent with the preservation of the character of the West Boulevard Historic District. This property is zoned high-density residential. However, Rapid City Municipal Code allows for exceptions or conditional uses, if appropriate and approved by this Commission. The first criteria given in the code for the review of conditional use permits is the location, character, and natural features of the property. It is our belief that this application should be denied because of this property's location within the historic district. It should also be denied because the proposed number of staff, associated traffic, and parking requirements do not fit with the character of the neighborhood. Finally, a number of properties within the historic district have been granted this exception or conditional use permit to be used as a professional office with a single employee. Approving this change in the conditional use permit would set a precedent for other single employee professional offices to apply for this same exception. I urge you to deny the application. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thank you. Laura Scherber.
Hi, I'm Laura Scherber. I'm one of the potential buyers of the property, and I can just speak if there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Deborah Watson.
Mr. Chair, Commission members, my name is Deborah Watson. I'm the current owner of the property at 804 West Boulevard, and I'm here to request your approval of the planned development. This property has been a business for 50 years, actually I think 51 years. Initially it was dental, medical, and for the past 10 years that I've owned it, I've used it as a law office. It's a small, unique building. It's less than 1,500 square feet. And I actually never listed the property for sale. And the reason I didn't is because I wanted to find owners who would fit within the West Boulevard neighborhood. And so I think that Laura and Kim are a good fit. I've always wanted to be a good neighbor. And I believe I have been in the 10 years that I've owned the property. And I do think that this medical clinic fits within the West Boulevard, I guess, the way that, you know, it's a good fit because they're helping people. They're good people. I've known Laura since she was a little girl. Her mom and I were best friends. So I know that they're going to be good neighbors for the people in West Boulevard. And the building was designed initially as a home, but it's been a business for the last 50 years. It wouldn't be very realistic. It would be cost prohibitive to make it into a home at this point in time. I do believe that one of the concerns was parking, and I do think that that's been adequately addressed. As you can see along Quincy Street, there's 5 parking spots that the city owns right next to my building, and then there's 3 additional ones further up, and they're rarely, if ever, used. So they're not spaces that anybody's been using. In the last several years, I hardly ever see anybody park there. So for the city to be able to lease those parking spaces benefits the city and also benefits the applicant. And I'm mostly here today to answer any questions that you might have. And I thank you for your attention and appreciate your decision.
Thank you. John Rayforth.
Good morning. My name's John Rayforth. We live at 926 Quincy Street. We're directly across the street from the subject property. So I think one of the first issues and concerns I have, and I'm here to object, is ignoring the historic district. And, you know, within the 250-foot radius, presidents have dined. We've got the oldest brick house in the city. We've got a lot of other significant historical properties. And I've included in the agenda materials an overview of some of the houses in the district for your purview. What people don't realize is that the residents are passionate about the neighborhood. And there's a petition that has 74 signatures of people that are objecting to this application. One thing that's out there maybe that needs clarification is that the immediate use before Deb's use was as a dental lab. It was a one-person dental lab that made crowns, bridges, and dentures for dentists. There was one employee and a runner. That was Tom Willock did the work. Another factor to consider too, and I think in Deb's letter, she alludes to the fact that Greg Swenson's psychology practice is in the neighborhood, and that is a reason that there can't be a change or a discrimination here for this use. Greg's a one-person shop. The applicant will have initially 5 employees. Greg's a counselor. He provides marital and family counseling services. He cannot prescribe medication for the treatment of mental disorders. The applicant's nurse practitioners can and will be providing psychiatric services. So Greg's counseling practice is really a very, very poor comparison. So don't use that as a comparison. Another issue out there is a safety risk. And Sarah included the survey, or excuse me, the site plan that's up there. The site plan, though, isn't entirely accurate. And with the parking that will be there for the patients, they will be backing up blind into West Boulevard. And in the materials we've provided, I've sketched in there are hedges and shrubs that obstruct the views from the south on West Boulevard and oncoming traffic. All this is further compounded by the fact that there's street parking.
Mr. Rayforth, you're probably going to want to summarize.
Okay.
You're kind of running out of time.
Okay. Just one last point. I believe it was mentioned here that there would be some oversight as to the number of employees, the number of patients, the number of practitioners, and that there would have to be further applications in the future. How in God's green earth is the neighborhood to monitor and know how many patients are going through there? Well, we don't have any idea. So it's something that is hard to enforce, impossible to enforce. So for all these reasons, and I would be glad to answer, of course, any questions. And as a lawyer, you always would like to talk and talk and talk, but I would like to give you a lot more reasons. But in any event, we're objecting, and we believe that it's not because of mental health. Mental health is a good thing. We believe that that's very important for the community. However, it's just not in this location. Also, Deb Watson has been a great neighbor, and
Sorry, Mr.
the
Rayforth,
applicants
I gotta
are
ask
very
you.
good people. So it's not against them personally. It's because of the use going from 1 employee to 5 employees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to get the last name wrong. Steve from 810 West Boulevard. I'm sorry, I just can't make out your last name, so I'm not even going to give it a shot.
It's Follinsby.
All right, thank you.
So I'm the neighbor that lives north or south of Deb Watson's building as it currently sits. And unless you live there, you don't see the safety issues and the everyday traffic that we deal with. I'm not going to go into specifics, but the YMCA, the overflow parking comes onto West Boulevard. And some of those pictures that were taken were early in the morning, but they park there from 6 a.m. till 8 o'clock at night. So the parking issues, the safety of just the Y coming through there with their little carts of kids that come down the sidewalk, and you're proposing going from 1 employee to 5, and that's a big increase. And most businesses want to increase their revenue, so you're going to see, people want to grow their business. So you're going to go from 36 clients to how many? And that's a lot of traffic added to that corner. And if one of you want to drive by there, it starts at 4 o'clock. That traffic is backed up for 1 to 2 blocks. So to pull your vehicle out of there, and I've watched Deb and her employee wait there for minutes at a time to try to get out into that traffic. So to go from 1 employee to 5 is too much. So I request to deny this, and that's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Roseland.
Good morning, Commission members. My name is Pat Roseland. I live at 1318 West Boulevard. I've been involved in the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association for nearly 30 years. I've lived in that neighborhood for nearly 30 years, and I am here to ask you to deny the request. And I'm going to reiterate what the purpose of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association is the purposes of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association is to protect our neighborhood from commercial encroachment, to preserve and promote its integrity as a residential neighborhood, and to maintain the designated historic district. As was stated before, this is high density residential, and I just feel like, you know, this has been a business in our area for almost 50 years, and it's not been an eyesore, but it's been a kind of a burr in the saddle. It's there, it shouldn't be there. It was basically put in as a continued use permit in 1971 before we became a historic district. And it's been riding that ever since. With the permit parking, there's 5 parking permits scheduled on Quincy Street. And I think I was told that even if you have permit parking, there's other people can park in that spot if no one else is there. Is that true? Vicki, would I ask you?
Vicki?
You would have to be a permit holder in order to park there, and our goal is that we do not issue more permits than spaces available. We have people that violate that, but they also get cited and ticketed as a result.
So legally, no one else can park there other than the 5 permitted
Have to have approved permit through the city to park there.
That might keep the city pretty busy. I'm just here again as a resident of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association, to ask you to deny this permit. And I thank you for listening, and hopefully we'll work well together in the future. Take care. Good morning.
Thank you. Sean Murr. Really striking out on last names. I apologize.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sean Murrah. I am a property owner at the property located directly to the south of the conditional use permit property. I have lived in the West Boulevard area. I've been a property owner at that property for over 23 years. This area is high-density residential district. It's in the West Boulevard Historic District. There's high pedestrian traffic here. We have walkers, we have joggers. We have families and pedestrians, kids, people walking with their strollers, walking their dogs. There's also a daycare at the other side of Quincy Street, right in the same location. The daycare frequently comes by in good weather with their commercial grade stroller with 8 or so toddlers right across the sidewalk in front of this property. We also have the Mount Rushmore Highway 16 just 2 blocks away. And since the Mount Rushmore Road project was done a couple of years ago, West Boulevard has experienced increased traffic with cars that are cutting across on Columbus Street and Quincy Street, increasing traffic in this area. This is a busy 4-way intersection with 4 stop signs on West Boulevard and Quincy Street. There's increased tourist traffic here with people going up to Skyline Drive and Dinosaur Park. There's also an alley on the other side of our property that has traffic going into this intersection. The point being is that there are a lot of pedestrians on the sidewalks in this area. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot going on. There are cars approaching the stop sign right in front of this property at 25 to 30 miles per hour, sometimes backed up 4 or 5 cars at the stop sign. Parking in the downtown YMCA area is 2-hour parking, so we frequently get the Y staff that park right in front of the applicant's property and our property, filling up the spaces on West Boulevard. YMCA staff as well, they park on Columbus Street and fill that up every day as well. The proposed CUP here is requesting approval for 3 cars to be parked diagonally at 90 degrees, also with an ADA accessible spot up there as well. These cars will be backing up blindly, diagonally. There's not the required 26-foot drive aisle for them to back up. They're backing up diagonally, backwards across that sidewalk, 40 feet into the right-of-way onto West Boulevard. This is a major amendment. This is different than one attorney and one staff with what I've seen as occasional traffic on site. According to the CUP plan, they're requesting to have 5 employees, 4 patients coming every hour to every 20 minutes for appointments. That's a lot of traffic. That's a major amendment. I don't think it's safe.
You could wrap up, Ms. Mara. Thank you.
So I believe that would be detrimental to pedestrian safety. It's site-specific safety. There's more traffic in the area. It's dangerous for the cars to back out backwards across the sidewalk. It's an undue hardship to public good. It's nothing against the applicants. They seem like nice people. Deb Watson has been a nice neighbor as well. Nothing against mental health. It's just site-specific safety and dangerous to the pedestrians. With all due respect, we request that you please consider denying this request. It's dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you. John Hay.
Thank you. I live, excuse me, live across the street at 918 and 920 Quincy Street. It's a tough position I feel in here. I could see both sides of it. I think one thing we should be thinking about, though, is if we're going to deny it, is what could it be? And it legally can be a duplex, a single family, correct? It could be duplex if you want to remodel it to that. So the parking issue would still remain to a degree. So the parking issue is the one thing I see is dangerous, because I think we need to take a look at that. I think there is a solution, but it seems to be against what city policy is, and that is there needs to be designated patient parking on the Quincy Street, like put signs up so that there's 3 designated or 4. Then that would mean that there'd be room for them, and then have the employees park on the site, and then they could much readily deal with that parking issue than having people that do not know about it having to back out into the West Boulevard and the like. And I think the other issue that would help is to have a better language that would limit the number of practitioners in the building. It's one thing, the number of employees, not so much an issue, but if it's the patients are coming to see the practitioners. So a way I understand it to be now, there'll be 2. And that is really, and some of it will even be telehealth, or, and so I think in reality, the way it's going to be right now, I don't think it will be that much different than what Deb was doing. But I think there should be some language to eliminate the ambiguity of what the future could be, so that we don't have to come back and observe them all the time and send you guys pictures all the time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kim Oberlo.
Hello, my name's Kim Oberlo, and I'm a family medicine nurse practitioner and a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And I am part of the, Laura and I are trying to buy the building for the proposed project. I just wanted to clarify, when she put in 5 people on the property, that was so that we wouldn't have to come back if there happened to be more. And what that means is that, so I only work, since I work at the Rapid City Medical Center, I work there 3 days a week, so I would only be in the building 2 days a week. My partner would probably be there 4, so there'd actually be only 2 days that we were together in there. And then we made room for 1 employee as a receptionist, and then we left 1 potential opening in case we need like a biller, coder, that sort of thing. As far as the petition goes, I know they had 70-some signatures, but when we went around to the boulevard to talk to most of these people, a lot of people that signed re-signed our petition because they were not told accurate information from people opposing it. There's never been a plan to have 5 staff members or practitioners in there. It wouldn't even be feasible in the size of the building. There's going to be 2 of us, we at most on 2 days a week, and then we see people every 30 minutes. Over 50% of my mental health clients are telemed, meaning they never come to the site. And then also Laura Scherber is as well. A lot of my patient population are children, ADHD. I know there was concerns about it being mental health, and are there going to be, problematic people there? And I assure you that as 2 women, we would never go into a practice that put us at risk or endanger the community. We want to see West Boulevard be a safe, happy place. But I just wanted to clarify some of those things. Also, I keep hearing that's in the historic district, but I was told when we started this that it was not part of the historic district. And as far as the parking, we're really not changing what has already been in place. So I just wanted to clarify some of that. So I do think I think that we can make this a good thing for the neighborhood. I think that they are expecting a lot more people than really actually exist. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of my written speaker requests. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak? Yeah, we'll give you, we'll be on the clock again. Mrs. Watson.
Again, Deborah Watson, owner of the property at 804 West Boulevard. I just want to respond briefly to some of the comments that were made. One is that since the notice went out on the plan development, I have not been contacted by one neighbor in opposition to the request. Not one person from West Boulevard has contacted me to oppose it. I did get a call from John Hay, who had some questions which we were able to answer. We also submitted some names on a petition in support of our request. I think there were almost 200 names of people. Some were on West Boulevard, other areas of Rapid City. I also visited with people on West Boulevard who, once I explained what was the plan, were in approval of it. I also wanted to indicate that I'm the owner of the property, but I also had on occasion 2 or 3 employees. Some days I had between 8 and 15 clients there. Other days I was in court, had none. So, the people who were at the office would vary from day to day. On the days that I saw clients, I would see clients every hour. Sometimes they came alone, sometimes they came with other people. And then there was talk about safety. And in the 10 years that I've been there, I don't think there's been any incidents involving safety anywhere near my property. I would tell you, as Steve indicated, the YMCA has used up the property spaces in front of my building every day, all day long, since I've been there. And I know that I don't own the property spaces, parking spaces in front of my building. There's 3 of them. But every day, all day long, the Y. Either they're employees or members, but I think employees because the cars are there every day, all day long. But I don't believe that the plan development creates any safety issues on the property. There's never been any. And, I've had a lot of clients there on occasion. They're going to be doing telehealth, so a lot of the time there won't even be patients there. But I do think that the proposal they've submitted to the Planning Commission, which would allow their patients to park off the property, is a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve? Sure.
Once again,
can you just identify yourself? We 2 minutes.
Steve Follansby, 810 West Boulevard, right next door. So as Deb proposed, on the safety issue, she hasn't had anybody call her and ask her about, well, that's why we got all the signatures, and went around to the neighborhood, and almost every person we talked to said that was not the facility for that type of business. And to go from a 1 employee to 5, that is the issue. It's already a problem for parking, and it's just going to be worse. And like you said, every business wants to grow, and you're just going to see more and more clients. So once again, I ask you to deny this. Thank you.
All right, Vince, you have questions, comments?
Thank you, Chair. I think some of the questions have already been answered regarding the hours of, the type of operation that you're proposing. And is there a hours of operation available? Do we know what that is?
Mr.
Vicki?
Chair? Yes, the hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday.
Thank you. I also wanted to know that, some of the residents, or a couple of the residents, have brought up traffic issues. Are there any law enforcement reports indicating that this is the issues that they brought up today?
Chair?
Vicki?
So we did not get any indication that there were any traffic or other criminal activities that resulted from this being used commercially in the past.
And I understand the owner of the property has indicated that this has been in use for 50 years for these type of commercial operations.
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
So in 1971, a conditional use permit was approved to allow a dental office, and then in 2013, a major amendment was approved to allow a professional office, which is how Deborah then began occupying the structure.
Okay. And I understand, of course, the mental health nurse indicates that the majority of, not the majority, or at least there will be some of her practice will be done via the telephone. And I want to ask a question, if I may. Do you also have, at any time, do you provide your services at another location?
Could you?
Sorry, I'm going to ask you to come.
Ask you to come up to the microphone for the.
Hi, I'm Kim Oberlo. Currently, right now, I do see patients at Community Health Center 1 day a week. And so at this time, if we were to take over the building, I would be gone on Tuesdays, leaving 1 day. But I'm not going to say that that will never change, because that is, we just don't know. But yeah, a good portion are telemed, and again, we don't ever see people every 15 or 20 minutes. So,
and while we're at this, let me just ask or follow up with that. So when your patients come, isn't it routine that they normally won't see each other when they arrive and leave?
So I think that's more in a therapy office but no, there is a small waiting room. So the amount of patients that we were authorized would give for the days we were both there, if we both had inpatient people, like in-person people, not inpatient, where we would, if we were both with somebody, that the next person could be waiting.
Okay.
So, and that again is saying that both of us, like I said, over 50% of my current clientele are, spread through Wyoming and all those, so a lot of it's over computer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your information.
Thank you.
I did have a question for the staff, though, regarding the parking on the street there. I saw a sign that indicated there was 2-hour parking. Is that going to change, or is that going to be standard?
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
So there's various parking allowed within this area. Some is 2-hour, but there is permit parking as well. And when you purchase a permit, then we enter that license plate into our database and have the ability, just by driving by in a computer within the vehicle, it'll ding us every time someone's parked inappropriately. So we have the ability, without much staff effort, to determine who's parked appropriately at what location.
All right. And I'm sorry, and I did want to make clear because another resident mentioned that something about drugs available, but our prescriptions are available. I wanted to make sure that there actually are no medications available on site. Is that correct? Or, I'm sorry, I apologize. That was my last question. Sorry.
So there's no controlled substances ever available on site. We haven't decided whether or not we would be taking samples. Those kind of samples would be like your antidepressants or your bipolar medication or whatnot, and they all have to be locked within a safe. There's already a large safe available in the office. So, but if people are worried about it, I mean, it's not detrimental for us to not provide samples.
And the medication you're talking about are something like Xanax and Zoloft?
Nope, no Xanax. Xanax is controlled. So nothing that that would require, like, that would be something people would potentially abuse. Any of those, like ADHD medications, benzodiazepines like Xanax, lorazepam, none of that would ever be on site.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That was it. Thank you, Chair.
Eric Ottenbacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. There is 1,108 feet in the basement level. Is that going to be utilized at all or developed in any way?
Deborah Watson, owner of the property at 804 West Boulevard. The downstairs is purely storage, would be used for filing. It won't be used, as I understand it, for anybody to be seen down there. I did finish the basement, so it looks nice, but it's just got cabinets there for filing, places to store, you know, shovels and things to take care of the yard and that sort of thing, but it would not be used in the operation of the business. And there's only, you know, as you can see, it's a very small building, so it wouldn't accommodate very many people.
If I might, that's, and I appreciate your information on that, but that was more for the prospective owners if they had plans to expand into that area.
Hello, I'm Kim Oberlo. No, we have no intention of using the basement. There's a very small staircase down the basement that wouldn't be feasible to take patients down. So it is just an open area, basically no offices or just storage. It's pretty much vacant.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
And one question for staff, if I might. Are there other commercial properties in this West Boulevard district, or is this the only one?
Mr. Chair, there are others throughout this area, and not necessarily just limited to the historic district, but within this general area. We have, within the high-density residential zoning, the provision that you can have a professional office with a conditional use permit. So we don't have a lot of high-density residential zoning in the city. It's kind of the zoning district that marries the central business district with our medium-density residential areas, and this is that buffering in between where you're stepping down into your more traditional single-family residential development. In addition, there are several vacation homes and other short-term rentals in this area that are deemed commercial. So there is a substantial amount of commercial within the area already.
Thank you. No more questions.
Brooke?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a few questions for staff. Number one, I think the applicant made a comment that we're not even sure this is in a historic district. Is there any follow-up to that?
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
the property is in the historic district, but I'm going to ask Sarah to share with you when a permit would be required and when it wouldn't, when a property is in the historic district.
Thank you. The structure at 804 West Boulevard is located within the boundary of the historic district. It has a status of non-contributing, and that's one element to know about this property, because historic districts can convey significance both as an individual property when they are contributing as opposed to non-contributing, but also the district we look at as well. So a historic review would be required if any exterior alterations were proposed to the structure, which what we understand from their operations is that there are none.
Okay, thank you. Second question is, I think that the traffic's probably light enough that there was no impact, a formal impact study done, but I'm assuming that staff takes into consideration with the business plan what the impact is to traffic, and I still see like staff approval with stipulations. Am I correct on that?
Mr. Chair?
Okay.
Yes, you're correct. It doesn't trigger any traffic impact study by a traffic engineer for a project of this size. This is rather small in scope. This would have less traffic than a home daycare that would not require a conditional use permit, where someone may be taking care of children up to 12 in their home, and they can do that, and then you've got families dropping children off and picking them up. So obviously, we want people to have the freedom to use their homes in that fashion. In this case, though, we are looking at that layout where you've got a commercial use, and what is the design of that parking. If this were to be a residential use only, those tenants would have the same parking situation that they would have to use in order to back out of this property onto West Boulevard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, other comments from the commission or questions on this one?
I'll make a motion.
Karen, I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm going to go to Karen first.
All right.
Sorry. I don't really have a question. There's been a lot of back and forth on both sides, and I can see the issue on both sides. Number one, I know that the West Boulevard District folks are passionate about their district, and they've come out for a lot of reasons, and I applaud that. I think that's a district that really works. The other thought is, on the other side, you have Deborah and her home or her business in this house, which has been a business of some sort for 50 years, as mentioned. And it would be difficult to take that house and change it, from what I understand, into a bigger house. I mean, for somebody to live in, or a duplex. And in light of that, and knowing that the traffic would be the same, the parking would be the same, it doesn't seem like a lot of change would happen, even if it was a home. You know, it depends. If it was, like you said, a daycare, it could be worse. So there's a lot of back and forth, and it's difficult for anybody to say, well, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, if they are passionate about the West Boulevard District. And the district itself is not just people, but it's the structures that make the district. Not necessarily who lives there, but the structures itself, because that's what makes the district. And so that sways me a little bit both ways too. So I just wanted to bring those comments out. That's how I feel, and in case anybody wants to know.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
And thank you, Sarah, for pointing out that this change of use does not trigger a permit or official review because there are no exterior alterations. However, we do respect the integrity of the historic district, and we've got a lot of representatives here from those that serve on a committee and work very hard to preserve the integrity of our West Boulevard Historic District. And we don't want to lose sight that their comments are important, and we do acknowledge that they are preserving a character of residential use, and something that, as we look at other uses within this district, whether or not they should be permitted, what does that do to the character of it? But I just wanted to acknowledge that even though it didn't require a permit, we certainly do respect that there is a group that wholeheartedly tries to preserve the purpose of creating this district.
Thanks, Vicki. Vince, I think your floor is yours.
I'm going to make a motion, and I do want to repeat again what Karen and Vicki just said. I think it's important to maintain the historical presence of any neighborhood. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and of course the Alamo is not used as a fort anymore. It was originally a church, but I can tell you that people are shocked when they see the Alamo today. So I understand things like that. I understand the preservation, and it does look like the owner of the property intends to keep it that way. So I appreciate her time and effort. I do make a motion to approve it with the staff's stipulation as outlined.
Mr. Chair, if I could make a friendly amendment.
Okay. Vince?
Just in reading the stipulations as they were presented, the stipulation number 6 says the final plan development shall allow for a medical clinic as a professional office on the property. I think it should be added, and operated in compliance with the submitted operational plan. We need to lock and load on what's the maximum number, what's the hours of operation, what days are they open, and then it goes on to say that any change or expansion of use is a major amendment. And of course, as you know, that means that they would be back before you for reconsideration.
That's correct. Those are the stipulations as outlined.
All right, Vince made the motion as just stated to approve item number 8 with the stipulations, including the amendment that Vicki added to include the operations plan as part of what's being approved here. And Eric Ottenbacher seconded that motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 9.
So this item is a conditional use permit to allow a drop-in and transitional housing center for youth and young adults experience literal, immediate risk or at risk of homelessness, and youth and young adults fleeing domestic violence at 706 East Monroe Street. The property is zoned medium-density residential district. Future land use is public district. The property is located east of North Lacrosse Street, which is classified as a principal arterial street on the city's major street plan. The property currently consists of a church, single-family dwelling, storage shed. The single-family dwelling in the north is located in the north portion of the site, and it will be used to temporarily house 4 young adults ranging from 18 to 24 years of age. Each of these individuals will be allowed to reside at the home for 30 days, up to 24 months to stabilize. This is the proposed floor plan for the main level of the church. The church is proposed to be used as a drop-in center for individuals 16 to 24 years of age, and it's where they plan to have all their support services and emotional services. Public access to the drop-in center will be 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. This is the proposed floor plan for the lower level of the church. There are no interior or exterior alterations that are being proposed as part of this application. Public notice was posted on the property. This is looking north and south along Pine Street, and then looking east along East Adams Street, Westview. This is looking east along East Monroe Street, and looking west along that same street. Staff is recommending that this item be approved, subject to the stipulations outlined in the report. I'll stand by for any questions, and the applicant also is in the audience as well.
Mr. Chair,
Vicki?
if I might add, so as you know, this item got continued from your last meeting so that they could have a neighborhood meeting, and I understand that they did have that neighborhood meeting. We did take into review all of the comments that we were hearing, some in favor and some in opposition to the use of this property for this purpose. And one of the deciding factors for staff is that this is really lined up to be more of a mentoring facility. It is not meant to be a treatment facility, but just to ensure that it is not functioning in a fashion as noted by some of those in the neighborhood that were concerned. I wanted to bring to your attention that we did make a revision to the last stipulation as was presented to you previously, and that you're acknowledging that if you are allowing this facility at this location, that the conditional use permit does not authorize the use of a mission as defined by the ordinance, and just making that black and white clear, so that if for any reason we would get reports that there were uses on the site that met with that definition, then we could have code enforcement send out a letter. If the use continued, we could bring forward an application to revoke the conditional use permit. And that's always something that's an option if a property isn't being operated in compliance and it falls within a conditional use.
Thanks, Vicki. I have a number of speaker request forms on this one. Joseph Barb.
Morning, Council. Excuse me. Joseph Barb. Just wanted to say that it's been a long road to get to where we are with this property. We've worked with the state, with the federal government, with the school districts, with multiple agencies to bring this support and service to the area. Currently in Rapid City School District, according to McKinney-Vento, we have over 580 at-risk or homeless youth, and that's what this was designed to support. You know, definitely we are doing this to enable support to avoid homelessness. And for those that are actively homeless, we are a referral support. We only intend to house 4 youth, young adults, I should say, 18 to 24, on site, and that's transitional for 30 days to 24 months based on youth needs. Any other ideas of housing anyone else is not part of the plan. I'm here to answer any questions, and just wanted to point out one of the youth that will be here to speak was part of the work and has been part of the plan and developing these processes, and we believe in the youth in our community so much, she's now a full-time employee.
Thank you. Hannah Brink.
Hello. My name is Hannah Brink. I'm a representative with the Youth Action Board. I was one of the YHDP voting representatives to bring this project into the community. Also a future employee of the Circle. I'm just here to give some insight and information on just the general topic. Youth at risk of or experiencing literal homelessness benefit in many ways from drop-in centers with case management services. 2.9 times more likely to use emergency shelter. They're 4.2 times more likely to use permanent housing, 1.7 times more likely to graduate from high school, or 2.6 times more likely to earn a GED with greater focus on education. HUD released statistics from 146 distinct housing program properties covering a multiple-year study of the impact of supportive housing programs, created in response to communities voicing concerns over impacts in their neighborhoods. Prices were associated with a positive impact on houses with 1,000 to 2,000 feet of any supportive housing site and experienced an upward trend in house prices relative to the prices of similar homes not near such facilities. An analysis of crime impacts at sites found there were no differences in the rates of any type of reported offenses. The Circle, proposed to at 706 East Monroe Street, is to be a much-needed bridge of support for youth and young adults ages 16 to 24 to help address obstacles and provide community support and be an important access point for coordinated entry, offering school dropout prevention, internet and computer lab, job search and training assistance, after-school programs, and tutoring, independent living skills workshops, educational and workforce opportunities, and connections to resources. The site was only designed to house up to 4 young adults as proposed and to be a link to housing options for all others through referrals to the many service providers partnerships we've established. Additionally, we are not designed to be a nightly emergency crisis housing unit. Youth can't access housing on-site without being referred through the state coordinated entry system in order to ensure that available housing is fair and equitable to all youth seeking housing options. There are concerns of safety, and that is absolutely understandable. As an organization, we've developed a security and safety plan and submitted it to the Rapid City Police and Fire Department for review and partnership to ensure we provide the safest environment not just for our youth, also for our potential neighbors. It was suggested in letters to the Planning Commission that the drop-in center would be best suited in an industrial area out of town, so that troubled youth are not tempted by casinos and bars. I don't currently know any youth who live in industrial areas. I do know of youth who live in our neighborhoods, many just like the proposed site. And I know my time's up, but real quick, I just wanted to add, the grant that funded through this program has honestly helped me a lot. I just moved into my first apartment, and it helped me furnish and just settle, and it's also given me really great connections that I wouldn't have had otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley Wasserberger.
Hello, my name is Ashley Wasserberger. I am the Education Director at Working Against Violence, Inc. We would be partnering with the Circle as education, so we would be providing trauma-informed care education, healthy relationships education, how to be a good bystander to staff and young adults. And we would also be a referral service, so if a young adult discloses that they've experienced domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking, we would be a referral service so that they can come to our shelter, which is a secure and safe shelter, and receive case management, safety planning, and things specific to violence.
Thank you. Kristen Kiner.
Hello. Thanks for visiting with us today or hearing us out. My name is Kristen Kiner. I'm a youth engagement coordinator within our community. And I've been in this position for about 9.5, 10 years now. And rising up the voice of young people is very important. And I want to make sure that the community and that you guys realize that this work hasn't been just in the last month. Really, about 8.5 years ago, when the Homeless Coalition Youth Task Force got started, it was mainly professionals and adults. And when we started bringing young people in, they didn't want to talk about planning. They wanted immediate solutions. And so this has been on our radar and the radar of young people for over 8 years. We've had some influence from the state to start a youth action board here in Rapid City. And initially, from the adult mentor, I was like, you know what, other communities like, can do it. Maybe Sioux Falls, Pierre, Aberdeen, whatever. And we kept getting that pressure because of the great work that young people were doing here in Rapid City. They were hearing it at the state level and with the continuum of care. And so finally, we're like, okay, well, let's make this happen. Young people were ready. As an adult mentor, I didn't know for sure if I was, but we did it. In June of 2022, young people started to gather. Most of it was virtual for the first 9 months, but they were passionate. They immediately were like, why haven't we done this before? We've needed this for years and years. We partnered with Lutheran Social Services and their community resource program. So many of the young people that initially served on the Youth Action Board were from the community resource program. So those that had previously been in foster care and had aged out. And so in 2022, we got started. Since then, approximately 80 young people, 80 individual young people have come to a Youth Action Board meeting, shared their voice, and wanted change. Because of the involvement with the Youth Action Board, that qualified our state to apply for the Youth Homeless Demonstration Project. Oh gosh, dang it. Youth Homeless Demonstration Project grant. And as a result, they applied. The Youth Action Board wrote reports. So young people wrote reports that went to HUD. As a result, our community received funding. Actually, our state received approximately $3 million. It's because we had a Youth Action Board, because they were listening to the Youth Action Board. Some of those funds are what are going to be able to fund this project. They've wanted a drop-in center for years. It's time for us as a community to come together and listen to our young people and serve them in the way that works best for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal Racontre. I hope I'm...
June 2020. June 2020. I started. Sorry.
Hamidak Yapi, Crystal Rencounter, Machi Yapi, and I'm the team lead on the Journey On Street Outreach Program, and we just started a program called STEPS, Support Team Encouraging Perseverance and Strength. And that's thanks to the YAB members. That's part of that hard work that they were doing, and their voices were heard. And the outreach team that we're going to be doing is going to provide transportation to the circle, and also we're going to be a partner with them on referral programs through the coordinated entry system. My personal opinion as a houseless youth would be, if I had this back in the day, I wouldn't have gone through the struggles that I did to get to where I'm at right now. I would have been a lot further in life, so I'm very hopeful for this center. I'm very hopeful for the YAB members who have worked very hard for this to be incorporated into our community, and I think that it's going to shed some light on that side of town. I think that it's going to also bring in opportunities to shed some light on that side of town. I think that it's going to also bring in opportunities to start neighborhood watches, which, you know, we can help collaborate and work with and help with security in that neighborhood. And I think it's also going to wake a lot of young kids up and show that there's a lot of opportunity out there besides the struggles that they're in today. The YAB members that I bring to the Youth Action Board now, we drove by that place, that center, the other night because they didn't know exactly the location that we were talking about and fighting so hard for, so we took them there, and they were shocked. They were like, I live right here. That's my house right here. You're telling me it's going to be right here? And I'm like, yeah, it's in your neighborhood. So I just want to say, from their perspective, from those individuals' perspective, they were very excited about something so positive being in their neighborhood. And Journey On is definitely going to be able to provide support with not only transportation, but for helping them get to other resources, because we are resource navigators. So with all of the heads put together in the neighborhood that are coming together, putting things like this together, I think that we're going to make some pretty positive impact on our kids, and we're going to help them to break the cycle that they've been pushed into. So thank you for having us, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. That's the, oh, yes?
I just want to announce my mistake. We started meeting in June of 2020 during COVID. We were doing virtual and stuff, so I misspoke and I said June of 2022. It's June of 2020. Thank you.
Are there any other audience members who wish to speak to this? Can I have you step up to the microphone? And just identify yourself once you're up there.
Okay, I live at 726 East Monroe. I oppose this because...
Can I get your name? I'm sorry.
You didn't get my name. Okay. Myron Pound. I live at 726 East Monroe, right on the same block as this. We have enough foot traffic through there as it is, and I feel that this will not be used as it's stated to use, because there is a house there they will put 2 to 4 people in it that they're talking about will stay there 2 months to 24 months, or 4 months to 24 months. Okay, that's great. And I feel that sure the youth needs this, but this building is so large that they'll utilize it for other stuff than what it really should be utilized for. Now, I was checking with some realtors and stuff, and we asked them if this would bring our property value down, and they said definitely it would probably bring your property value down. And I own a rental and I own a house on that same block. So, and it's already in a kind of a low value property area anyway, so I'm really against losing any more than what I'm losing. Sure, the church has sat there for about 6 months to 8 months empty, and it does need work. But I feel that somebody could come in there and make an apartment house out of it easy, because there's a lot of room there. There's a full basement under it and full upper. I really don't think the kids need this big an area. And if they're playing with $3 to $4 million, why can't they build something that they can really utilize? And I feel that this is in the wrong space, wrong area of town anyway. And we've got neighbors there that have problems with domestic violence. One gal, her granddaughter was killed by her boyfriend or something, and the gal across the street has got a restraining order against her ex-husband and stuff like this, and we really don't think we need that extra around there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brink, you've got to go to the microphone if you'd like.
I just wanted to clarify that we did not necessarily clarify. The $3 million was throughout the entire, multiple projects through the state. This right here was it less than $1 million? And part of the grant was there was no building anything. So it was just for previously occupied structures. And yeah.
Go to Eric Ottenbacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just maybe for some clarification, it says the Rapid City Municipal Code, a group home is defined as an activity providing personal assistance to 6 or more individuals. So we're talking not the 4 that are staying there, but the whole number of people. Am I correct on that?
Vicki?
Mr. Chair, that is actually a really good comment, Eric. So anyone could have up to 5 people living in their home where they're providing them a place to live and food to eat. That's allowed. It's just deemed a family. When you're offering other services, helping them seek independence, working through some issues so that they can lead that life of success, then it falls within that group home definition, and that's what brings it to, before you for public review.
Thank you. And one other question, if I could. Do you have any specific criteria that either you use to determine which 4 are going to be in the home or will potentially exclude from being allowed to stay there?
Mr. Barb?
Sure, Joe Barb, if I could answer that. The any youth that seeks services has to go through coordinated entry, which is our homeless management information system, and they are scored and given priority based on criteria designed by the federal government and the state. And there is no preference other than case management then looks at which youth are in need and then what properties are available, and then it's youth choice. They're not forced to accept any property. And the way that the prioritization is set up has been created and deemed by the coordinated entry for the continuum of care for the state of South Dakota for housing. It's not our choice on who can choose the property, or if our property is chosen by them, it's basically up to service supports that are already in place.
If I can dovetail on that, and I'm trying to be as careful as possible on this, but what about individuals who have a violent past history or certain felonies pending against them? What about that? How does the state look at that?
To qualify for housing through HUD, you can't have a felony in the past 5 years, can't have any felonies or acts against children ever, or certain drug activity distribution. Those things are within the last 5 years, and then some things permanently. So HUD does put some practices in place to ensure that the property is as safe as possible.
Thank you very much. No more questions.
Mr. Barb, while you're up, I had a couple. I apologize. Having two buildings on the property with seemingly different uses. Could I just make sure that I'm clear? So the house, the residential house where 4 people would be staying, is that I don't know what, for lack of a better word, is that basically an apartment where they come and go as they please and have, there's no, I guess management would be typical apartment management, or is there sort of social work or oversight of that residential portion?
It's a really good question. The, anyone staying in the transitional housing site, which is a former parish housing, would be assigned to case management. We are hiring a licensed social worker on site who will be there. They're staffing 24 hours a day. These are individuals who are 18 to 24, so they're adults. They are just adults that may not be ready for individual supportive housing on their own without some assistance. So there will be 24-hour on-site support should someone have an emergency or someone have a question, or even, you know, hey, I've never cooked a meal for myself, so could you help me walk me through that? So it's that type of assistance, but there will be a caseworker on site as well.
Okay. And then in the former church property, the drop-in portion, if I caught the hours correct, that envisioning 1 to 8 p.m. and that, I guess maybe take me through the staffing of that and expectations for the operations in that.
So the staffing on site would be up to 5 on any given day between 1 and 8. Given breaks and given lunch hours and things like that, I would say there would probably be 3. We also have from other service providers such as Wavy relationships in place with about 11 other service providers that have also offered to send staffing to meet youth and also introduce, you know, programs and supports within the community. So that would be the staffing. As far as the number of youth, we've been meeting at LSS for the past little over a year, and typically we have on average 6 to 7 youth that come for those meetings. We've had high ends of 16 to 20. Could we have an event like Hannah? One of the things that Hannah loves to do is, Hannah's a very good singer. One of the things I said to her is, hey, let's do a karaoke night. Let's do a group activity that draws youth in, because while we're having those conversations and doing those fun events, that's when we learn about the home life. That's when we learn about the insecurities, and then we can address those insecurities. So could we have more than 16 to 20? Absolutely, we could have more than 16 to 20. And that's why we've partnered with Rapid City Police Department, created a plan, and said, you know, help us navigate. If we were to have more, how would we address that?
And so, last question, I promise. I can't promise anything for the other commissioners. Outside of that 1 to 8 period, do you anticipate using the facility for, let's say, you know, I don't know how to put it, but like follow-on appointment type meetings or other activities?
Social worker, I'll be on site typically 7 a.m. because I'm a morning person, and that's when I can do data entry and put things in when there aren't any young people in the building, just staff. Could a social worker working for us say, I'd like to visit with you tomorrow at 11 and work on your case management individually? It would be a private appointment scheduled, but yes, it could happen.
Okay. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say that this community has made remarkable changes over time, and I've seen this similar to like when the policemen decided to have basketball for the kids during the summer nights, the change that makes. And I'm so heartened by the kids that are coming up and wanting something like this. I think this is remarkable, the changes that are happening across the city. Journey On has improved things tremendously. I can see that. I go to the church downtown that has called them several times, and it's just remarkable. And I'm hoping that through things like this, that we can see a change in the kids as they grow up. They'll grow up in a better environment and won't have as many homeless out there when they're an adult. You know, anything to help is worth it. So I'm definitely supportive of this program, and I would support this, and I won't make a motion yet because there's other people want to talk, but I'd like to make a motion that we approve this item, including the revised statements that were just placed on the project plan. And thank you.
Karen made the motion to approve item number 9 with the stipulations as listed, and Brooke seconded that motion. Vicki, are you willing to provide a recap of the suggested change to the stipulation?
Yeah, so I think the comment that Karen's alluding to is one that's actually in the STIPs, which is that this cannot function as a mission. I would like to, if I may, Mr. Chair, 2 things. The current operational plan as submitted speaks to that there will be 6 to 10 youth, young adults, and 5 staff members on the property. The majority of the time, youth attendance may increase to 20 for special events, and then it also speaks to the 4 that will occupy the residential structure. It is important to note that it's capped at that, and if this program should expand and they would want to have more activity on the site, that would be a major amendment. They would be back before you in the future. Also, there is a provision that if we do see issues with this, that obviously we did get a lot of input from the neighborhood, and I am somewhat surprised there aren't more people in the audience today. But again, we do have the provisions within the ordinance that if there is legitimate concern that evolves as a result of this, we have the ability to work with the applicants to see what needs to be done to correct those situations and to bring that item back before you for final determination. So if it doesn't operate as it is submitted, we do have the opportunity for you to take a different position on this in the future.
All right. So no change needed to the stipulations as listed, and that works for Karen, works for you, Brooke, on the second. Vince, I think you had a light up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank the personal testimony that you gave today. I really do appreciate that. I mean, you can be an inspiration, so please keep it up. Thank you for your work.
Eric Ottenbacher.
I want to reiterate what Vince says. This sounds like a really great program and one that's highly needed. Before we vote on this, I just wanted to clarify on the covenant agreement with the city in concern with sprinkler protection. It's kind of vague the way that that it's kind of stated. It sounds like Chip's been consulted for that. Is there a requirement for sprinkler protection in this case?
Vicki?
Mr. Chair, yes, there is. And this is a standard allowance by the fire department when someone is trying to repurpose an existing structure, and that change of use does require fire suppression. The fire department, in many of these instances, puts a time frame on it and then allows the user of the site to work towards compliance by a specific date. So in this situation, they've allowed 18 months for them to bring it into compliance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Brooke?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a comment. It was interesting to watch this all go very publicly and read about it in the paper and see that there was a town hall held where people tried to reconcile the differences and really educate the neighborhood on what the changes were. So it's been actually a really neat process to follow, and our community's been really engaged on both sides. So I feel like that's the process at work, and I'm delighted that you're here, and just congratulations on a really neat project. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, further comments on the motion to approve? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. That's the end of the regular agenda today. Any staff or planning commission discussion items?
We just would like to take this opportunity to wish all of you happy holidays. This is our last meeting before 2023. As you know, several years ago, we decided that we wouldn't hold our second meeting in December because we just couldn't get quorum. And as you can see, it was nip and tuck to get quorum today. So thank to each of you for being here. Be safe and wonderful holidays.
All right, Vince.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually had some questions about the last city council meeting. And wanted to clarify something if I could, because I listened to it and I was confused by what was discussed regarding the medicinal marijuana address on Main Street. And what I understand was this, is that if somebody took a compass and put a point in Halley Park and drew a circle 500 feet, it encompasses, and if this is the building we're talking about, it encompasses this part of the building landed in that 500 feet. So when the ordinance was designed, didn't the ordinance allow for some stipulations, or am I wrong here?
Mr. Chair?
Vicki?
So the ordinance is very specific that if there is a property that has one of these uses, such as park, playground, whatever, childcare, if you measure from the closest point of that property to the closest point of the building on the property where the dispensary is going to be operated. And in this case, a 4-foot sliver of that building was within that 500-foot radius. So that meant it fell within the provisions of a conditional use. Now, you did hear some city council members that said, I'll support permitted locations, I'm never supporting conditional. They kind of used the language, the zoning doesn't support it, so we're not supporting it. Well, the zoning does support it as a conditional use. What I believe they were intending to say is there's enough permitted locations out there that we're not supporting any conditional sites. And that seems to be, other than a few exceptions, that's how they fell on every conditional use permit that went before them for dispensaries.
Oh, okay, so then, so there is a conditional use permit. I mean, we can look at that and say, here's the building, this much of it. So if the building owner cut off that much of it or isolated it, I mean, then it wouldn't fall in that 4-foot area. Am I correct?
Correct. The applicant actually discussed doing that and made the decision no. He's got a permitted location 2 doors down that does have 10 off-street parking spaces. That does bode well for his customers. And so he reluctantly, as he walked out of the room Monday night, concurred to leave it where it's at and not pursue trying to lease a smaller suite, remove the 4 feet. It was obvious that council was not supporting that location.
Okay. Well, and I was thinking about what we do here at the Planning Commission. I mean, we take a look at something like that and say, this is possible. I mean, this is an exception that we can make based on the way it's written. So we weren't out of line doing that, which we've been criticized in the past by some of those council members.
Try as I might, in having an opportunity to give them direction, noting that it is a conditional use, so it is within the zoning regulations. So look at the criteria of review for a conditional use permit. If you can point to something in the criteria like parking or noise or odor, if you have that concern, then note that is the reason why you're going to recommend to deny. Couldn't quite get them over that bridge to make those statements, but tried.
Well, and I'm glad that the applicant had a conversation with you, and he was, he decided to keep his original location and turn it into and I'm not the Walmart of medicinal marijuana. One of the things I heard. Is that correct? Sorry. That was just an observation. No, Vicki, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thanks for the well wishes for the holidays. I do appreciate that, too. Thank you for clarifying everything.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of y'all as well. Anything else? All right, Karen made the motion to adjourn. Vince seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.